I hope it is audible and visible to all. So you can respond using chat or you can respond using voice message. Okay, fine. I hope it is audible and visible to all. Okay, I'm getting responses. So now I will begin with the class. So in the previous class, we have started with module 1. So in that module 1, we have discussed about semiconductors. Okay, semiconductors occurs between the conductors and insulators. So here, in that we have started with the first topic, that is bonding forces in solids. So here in that we have studied about the electronic configuration of each atoms. We have taken like silicon, germanium, neon, sodium, chloride, like this, and then we have discussed how to write the electronic configuration for the given atoms. So based on that, we have discussed the topic called bonding forces in solids. So now we'll move on to that topic. So this is the topic we have started. Before that, we have studied the electronic structure. So we have know already how to write the electronic configuration for the given atom. Later on, we'll move on to the bonding forces in solid. And here, we already discussed about ionic bonding, and second is metallic bonding. And in ionic bonding, we have discussed that each sodium atom, that is Na plus, is covered with or bonded with 6 nearby chlorine atoms. Similarly, each chlorine atom is bonded with 6 nearest sodium atom. So here there are no free electrons to cause the flow of current. So actually here in this topic, the main intention is that how affect this bonding causes the flow of current. So if I go to the ionic bonding, as we know that in ionic bonding there are no free electrons which can cause the flow of current when there is an external voltage or energy is applied to the material or to the atom. So here the atom which I have taken is sodium chloride, NaCl, and we know that when it is went through a ionic bonding, then there is no free electrons which can cause the flow of current. So therefore this ionic bonding belongs to the insulating material or insulator, because there are no free electrons. Similarly, we went through the second bonding, so the same explanation is given here, that is metallic bonding. So in metallic bonding, we have taken the metal which is constructed using sodium atom. So here in this metallic bonding here, so as we know that in the electronic configuration, this sodium atom has one free valence electron, so which is shown here. So this is the one free electron which appears in the valency shell, and this electron, before applying any external voltage, it is already available in the metal or in the given atom. So as soon as we apply the external force or the voltage or the battery, the electron will start moving from one place to another, and this will cause the flow of current. So from this I can say that metallic bonding is best suitable for conductor because it has one free valence electron. If I take Na plus atoms in terms of millions, then we have a million number of electrons which can cause the flow of current. So now from this I can conclude that metallic bonding is best suitable for the conductors. So the metals like aluminium, iron, copper, so there are n number of metals are there which are available. So these all metals have one free electrons in that valence shell. So that can cause the flow of current when the external force is applied. The next, this is the same explanation, just go through this explanation, okay, sorry. So now, based on this, then we went through the next bonding now, that is covalent bonding. So when it comes to the covalent bonding, okay, so wait a second. So when it comes to the covalent bonding, so this is the part belongs to the covalent bonding, and which atom is used in the covalent bonding is, so here we have to use the material, okay, which is bonded with covalent, meaning, so the semiconductors are the best example for covalent bonding here. So here I have taken one silicon atom which is shown here. So it is little bit blurred but it is clear so to view. So that's why I consider these notes. So just concentrate here. So I have taken one silicon atom. So if I take one example here, this is one silicon atom. This atom is bonded with the nearby atoms with 4 covalent bonds. So now when I say the covalent bond, so covalent bonding is much not stronger when you compare with the ionic bonding. So therefore, so when I take one example here, this is also called as diamond lattice structure. Covalent bonding, in other words, we also call it as diamond lattice structure. So here we have taken one example based on silicon atom. So silicon is a kind of semiconductor, okay. I hope you guys studied the semiconductors. So semiconductors are nothing but they are p-n junctions which holds a p-type and n-type material. We already discussed about that in p-n junction model 2 also. So here we have taken one silicon atom, plus 4 indicates it has 4 free valency electrons. So these are the 4 free valency electrons which are surrounded in the valency band. So now, so here, so this is a covalent bond which is bonded here. So each silicon atom is bonded with 4 free electrons. Similarly, if I take this silicon atom, it also bonded with 4 free valency electrons. So when I said, so here 2 free electrons are covered in one valency band of nearby silicon atom. So from this I can say that, so now this is a covalent bond which holds 2 free electrons between the 2 silicon atoms, and each silicon atom has 4 free valency electrons. So now when I apply the external force or the energy or the voltage, then this covalent bond for a particular applied voltage, so this bond will break down and the electrons which are present in that bond will get free now, and those free electrons will take place in the flow of current. So the last conclusion here is that, so when the electrons are free in any atom, those electrons will cause the flow of current in that atom. So now, so that's why covalent bond is best suitable for semiconductors like silicon, germanium, like carbon. So these are the materials which are used in the covalent bond. The only concept here is that, so this is a covalent bond which is not much stronger. When I apply a particular voltage to this covalent bond will break down and the electrons present in that bond will cause the flow of current. The same explanation is given here, and here we have written the electronic structure for silicon and the electronic structure for germanium also. So which is discussed before starting with the bonding forces in solid. Now the last type of bonding here is, so mixed type bonding. So in mixed type bonding, so this is used to when the atoms are mixed here. For example, if I take here, when I have taken like the compounds like the gallium arsenide. Gallium is a semiconductor, arsenide is also semiconductor. If I combine them, we call them as mixed, and these mixed materials as a type of bonding, and we call it as mixed type bonding. So this mixed type bonding also can be easily break down when you apply a particular voltage. So this mixed type bonding can be formed using ionic bonding and covalent bonding. The combination of ionic and covalent bonding is used to form mixed type bonding, and the materials used in mixed type bonding are gallium arsenide, gallium phosphate and gallium arsenide phosphate. So these are the three types of semiconductors which are mixed to form the mixed type bonding. Okay, so this is about the bonding forces in solid. We have discussed four types: mixed type, then covalent bonding, then the metallic bonding, and then ionic bonding. So based on these bondings, we have decided that if the material went through ionic bonding, we call it as insulator. If a material went through the metallic bonding, we call it as conductor. If the material went through the covalent bonding, we call it as a semiconductor, which occurs between insulator and conductor. The last is mixed type bonding, purely belongs to the semiconductor when more than one semiconductor is combined to form another type of material like gallium arsenide, gallium phosphate. And this type of bonding is formed by the combination of ionic and covalent bonding. So this is about bonding forces in solid. So after this, the next topic is, so here we will move to the next topic, that is metals, semiconductors and insulators. So here now we will discuss about this metals, semiconductors and insulators. I hope you already studied about the metals in physics or in basic electronics also. So metals are nothing but they are the metals which are good in the conduction or the flow of current. So they are easily pass the electrons to move from one place to the other place, so and cause the flow of current very easily. So when it comes to the semiconductors, semiconductors are the materials which occurs between the metals and insulators. So here semiconductors, so it takes some energy. Once some energy is applied to the semiconductors, then it will cause the flow of current. So when I say to the insulators, insulators are bad conductors because it will not allow any flow of current in the insulator or in the insulator material. So we can say them bad conductors for the flow of current. So the same thing is explained in terms of here block. So first I will concentrate on insulator. So in the insulator, it is explained using energy band diagram here. So this energy band diagram contains, this is a conduction band, okay. This is the valency band. In between that we have forbidden energy gap, okay. So when it comes to the insulator, as we know that valency band is always filled with electrons. So it depends on the material you have select. Either it contains electrons or holes. So both are charge carriers. We can choose any type of material. Okay, here I will assume that now we have a valency band which is filled with electrons, and the energy gap between the valency band and the conduction band is around 10 electron volt. So if we have any material which has the energy gap around 10 electron volts, then that material belongs to the insulator. So here, because of this forbidden energy gap around 10 electron volt, how much voltage you apply here? So here the electrons present in the valency band will not move towards the conduction band, which is empty here. So as soon as electrons enters into the conduction band, those electrons will cause the flow of current. But here, because of this energy gap, there is no possibility if I apply the external force. If I go on increasing the external force here, then what it does, it will start burning. If I take wood, I hope you guys know about wood. So if I start applying the electric force for that wood, for a maximum voltage, it will start burning rather than the conduction. So because of that, in insulators, whatever energy you apply, it will never cause the flow of current. Instead, it is to start burning. So now next we'll move on to the semiconductor. So here when it comes to the semiconductor, this is the energy gap between the conduction band and valence band. So here, and the energy gap between the conduction band and the valence band is just 1.1 electron volt. So for a particular external voltage, here the electrons in the valence band will pass and moves towards the conduction band. So because of this, as soon as the electrons moves to the conduction band for a particular applied voltage, those electrons will cause the flow of current. So because of this, so semiconductors are used in manufacturing many integrated circuits, because here the flow of current can be controlled. The flow of current can be controlled by applying a particular voltage. Suppose if I take an example like semiconductor called silicon. Here we know that for silicon, the threshold voltage for silicon is 0.7 volts. So until I will apply a 0.7, silicon will act as an insulator, because there is no movement of electrons in the conduction band, or there is no cause of current. So as soon as if I apply the 0.7 volts for the silicon material, there is a rapid increase in the flow of current which causes the current. From this I can say that now we can control the material which have an energy gap around 1.1 electron volt. So because of this controlling in nature, semiconductors are widely used in manufacturing of integrated circuits. The best example for integrated circuits like your mobile phones, your desktops, pen drives, camera, washing machine. So now in cars also we use embedded system which is made up of semiconductor to control the air conditioners or to some other features of the car. So like this, semiconductors are now widely used, or 90% of this world now depends on semiconductors. Because of this nature is it can be controlled with a particular threshold voltage. So this is about semiconductors, which is made up of p-type and n-type material. The last is metal here. So metals are nothing but, here in metals, the valency band and the conduction band, either it is overlapped, here the valency band is overlapped with the conduction band, or already the conduction band is partially filled with electrons. So because of this, as soon as if I apply the external force or the voltage, it will cause the flow of current. So here the thing is that in metals, we cannot control the flow of current or the flow of electrons. So because of this, it is only used in the home sources or in the home appliances, like in switchboards, okay, there we will use, so that it can sustain around 250 volts. And the metals which are used in such applications like aluminum metal, copper, iron, so these metals are used. So in our home appliances also, like the wires which are connected to the fans, in TVs, so these are all the metals, and here they cannot be controlled because already there is the electrons present in the valency band or in the conduction band. They are already filled. Just you apply the voltage or the by external force, the cause of current will start flowing towards the one place to another. Because of this, we can say that metals cannot be controlled, but semiconductors can be controlled. Whereas insulator, they are dead materials; they cannot be used in any such events. Okay, so this is about metals, semiconductors, and insulators. Hope it is clear for everyone about these three topics. So in the next class, so I will start with this is the explanation which is given here. Just go through the explanation. In the next class, because from Monday onwards, we are going to start with offline class. So from the next timetable, according to the timetable, I will start directly from this topic, that is direct and indirect semiconductors in the offline class. So I hope it is clear for everyone, okay, about the bonding forces in solid and then the metals, insulators and semiconductors. So if you guys understood, you guys can put a message as yes. If you want to repeat a particular part, so I will do that repetition. So do it fast and respond in the chat box if you guys understood what I explained right now. Okay, fine. So I hope it is clear for everyone then. It's good. Still the strength of the class is very less. It's only 38 students present in the today's class. I hope around 50 students will attend the class. So from Monday onwards there will be an offline class and the bus route will be sent to you guys. You guys need to attend the class proper. So now send your attendance. Okay, we will end up the class. Do it fast.